This is the Anarchy Breakdown, American procedural, Scene 2. The screenplay is called MAMA'S BOIS, and it's a detective drama set in a small seaside town in the wilds of America. This scene is from episode 5, and Detective Varani and Detective Gracie have arrested and are interrogating a character called Daniel in connection with the murder of 12 high school cheerleaders. Let's take a look.
Cupcake.
I assume you're aware of the recent events.
Such a devastating loss.
Losses.
I knew them.
We know.
Where were you between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. on June 5th?
Switch off the light.
What?
Right there on the left. If this is now an official interrogation, detective, I would prefer it feels like one.
Have we upset you?
Light.
No.
I was hosting an intimate evening of song and praise for the bachelors of this parish.
We're gonna need those names.
That won't be possible, ma'am.
You don't have a choice.
The scene's all about tension, and I needed the actors to be totally connected. All three. And the actor playing Daniel there is an actor called Joseph. It's fantastic. And this food, right here, has
Cupcake.
real significance in the rest of the series.
I assume you're aware of the recent events.
Such a devastating loss.
Joseph is so
Losses.
natural and so internal and quiet as a
I knew
person
that.
and also as his character.
We know.
Where were you between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m.
It's a
on
classic
June
line,
5th?
right? It's really hard not to go over the top.
Switch off the light.
What?
It's real
Right
listening
there on the
going on there.
left. If this is now an official interrogation, detective, I would prefer it feels like one.
Have we upset you?
Light.
No.
Pace is fantastic, and that wasn't just all.
I was hosting an intimate evening of song and praise for the
It's
bachelors
another
of
tricky
this parish.
line, but he
We're
went for
gonna
it.
need those names.
That won't be possible, ma'am.
You don't have a choice.
So you recognise these lines? We recognised them before, as in, I haven't copied them, but they're from these scenes, you know. Initially, there were some lines there with this moment, but decided to cut them all out because the quiet, the tension, and the weirdness and oddness needed to be brought to the fore. You could see Lena's reaction to Anya right there. It needed to be recognisable to an audience as that classic interrogation scene. But how do I, as a writer and director, make it my own? Usually there is just one detective questioning and the other being quiet. I wanted to see that triangle, and I wanted to see how the characters and the actors worked with each other, because I love this scene because throughout the whole series there's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of question marks around every character, but you really don't find out who the killer or killers are until one of the very, very last moments. So throughout it, the character of Rani, who Anya is playing, is kind of this new person in town, so she knows no one. The character of Detective Gracie, been brought up in this town, so she knows everyone. Even within the scene, I wanted to bring a certain amount of mystery and questioning to the character of Gracie, both for the audience and for Anya playing Varani, because at this stage, episode 5, Varani really believes that she's starting to lose her mind, and perhaps this hasn't really happened at all. It's been a whirlwind few days. So this scene I've picked, very, very pivotal. Not only is it a classic detective interrogation scene, it also has to say a lot about the breakdown of all of those relationships. And the character of Daniel, he is a character throughout the series who everyone writes off as someone who's quite weak, or someone who's just very odd, or someone no one ever needs to care about or feel anything about or think about. Someone who's been abused, really, by his own society. And this is a moment where the character of Daniel just shifts that power. That shifting of power within a scene like this is what makes it really, really interesting and makes it feel as if it's different. You can feel that connection. And I don't just mean eyeline, I mean body, mind, and soul. It just made me, as the filmmaker in the edit, it's so much easier. It might look like fancy editing, which it is, but there's only so much you can do to make something feel connected and pacey. Lena had a line, "You don't have a choice." Now, I've heard that line before, but I could not put it in because we as an audience recognize it. But if you're the actor, it's really hard to feel connected to lines like that because perhaps you've heard them 100 times before. And what do you do with that? And I understand it. That's one of the reasons why I put it in there, just to test Lena, because I knew she could deliver. And what Lena brought there is, throughout the whole scene, she brought that energy of, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I'm working too hard. Because throughout the whole series, the character of Gracie wants to do as little amount of work as possible. And then this big tragedy happens, and she has to step up, and she's not used to it. And by this point, she's had enough. Her relationship's failing, her professional relationship is clearly failing, and she's had enough of this whole situation. She just wants it to end. And I think what Lena brought there was, again, a very simple choice. I really don't want to be here. I just want this to end. And throughout all that, she allowed it to seep in to her body, her soul, her mind, feed into the energy of that group, that little triangle right there. It's a really hard scene for the actor playing Varani there, because in the timeline of the series, it's episode 5, so we're deep in, and she wants answers too. But I love what Anya brought, to give myself some credits how it's written too, but Anya really bought into the fact that, oh, this is a breakthrough now. So her energy level has just spiked. If you watch the rest of the episode, it very quickly descends into real darkness, because this moment in the episode, this moment in the series, is that moment where you overindulge in positivity. It feels like a sugar rush, and it's a big crash. And that's what I needed from the scene, and that's what Anya brought. It's always one of those scenes where I feel most proud of, because of the actors in those scenes and how they elevated my writing to somewhere else. And that's what an actor should do. We should always try and elevate the writing, no matter how bad or good or great it is, because even if it's great, always be greater. And I think all of those actors in that scene, they really bought into the traditional moments of an interrogation scene, but also remembering their own internal dialogue. As you must have seen in the scene, it's actually what's not being said, much more interesting, and says a lot more than what is being said, if that makes sense. And that's because the actors just allowed themselves to just feel that simple emotion. With Daniel, his emotion is the power shift. With Varani, that emotion is that sugar rush before a big crash. And with Gracie, that emotion is exhaustion. This has been the Anarchy Breakdown, and I'll see you next time. No justice, no peace.